Hey, welcome to Genre Exposure, a film podcast. Join us as we explore the wide world of cinema, broaden our horizons one movie at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Dustin, and as usual, I am here with Jason.
Hey everyone.
What is up, my dude?
You know, hanging in there, watching some movies. Actually watching more movies than I have been lately, because
Hell yeah.
I wasn't feeling well this past week, so I was home more.
Yeah, it's the perfect time to watch a little movie.
And we bought a new TV.
Ooh.
Yeah, new 4K.
How's that been working out for you?
Nice, I like it a lot. It's a Samsung. Our last one had the dirty screen effect.
Oh, what's that?
It's like, mine started happening around the edges, where it looks like there's literal dirt on the screen.
Oh, wow.
And it's all murky and gross looking. And it only gets worse. There's nothing you can do about it.
Oh, the death sentence, huh?
Yeah. So I'm like, well, I gotta buy a new TV. Just have to. Plus, my parents had just bought a new one. I helped them pick out a 75-inch. And it's like, okay, they cannot have a TV bigger than mine. So it was time to fucking
You are
do
a
it.
professional movie podcaster. You need...
I should try to do some tax write-off, even though we make $0 from this.
It's an expense of the business, man.
Business. How about you? What have you been up to?
Existing and doing things, and I don't know why, but I got this bug to read a book after last time when you read a book.
Yeah.
I got that to talk about this time, and
Sweet. I have a book-related story that I already told you about, but I will share with our listeners.
Please do.
Yes. Shall I go ahead and do that now?
Well, first of all, the episode today, we're about talking about night creatures.
We are talking about night creatures, a.k.a. Captain Clegg.
Yes, a Hammer film with Peter Cushing to round out our little opening trilogy for the year.
Yeah.
That was not planned, just like the old days.
An accidental Peter Cushing love fest,
And
which is always welcome.
We'll get all into that and the craziness that is this film. But we're going to talk about what we've been watching. We're going to hear your book story. I've got a book story. And also, we're part of the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, and we love it. There's all kinds of cool shows that you could be checking out, also on the network. Most of them about movies. There are some other ones that, dalliance in other topics, some of which I enjoy as well. But
some of them even better than our show.
Some may say,
if you can believe it.
And by some may say, you and I say, there's some better shows out there you could be listening to. And you're welcome to enjoy them as well. So go check all those out. If you've got a nerdy hobby interest you like, there's probably a show on the network for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so tell your book story now.
Oh, okay. So remember how last time I said, I'm reading a book now, that I haven't read a horror novel in ages.
Yeah.
And it was My Best Friend's Exorcism by Gary Hendricks. Fun book. Great book.
It's got a film.
Yeah, right. And now I mentioned that then. I was like, oh, hey, they also made a movie of this. I need to go watch it.
Yeah, you do.
So then I was like, okay, I'm going to sit back. I'm going to watch this movie. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, and it came out in 22, I believe. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, yeah, okay, this seems kind of familiar. I did just read the book, though. That's why, right?
It debuted on Prime, I think, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm watching it, I'm thinking, God, this really seems familiar. And then my wife came in halfway through. She was like, oh, haven't we seen this? I was like,
oh, no.
Did we? She's like, I think we have. I'm like, So then we get to the end, and it's like, okay, that was good. It was pretty close to the book. They changed some things. Not quite as good, of course. Hardly ever is. But then I go back, and I'm looking in my Letterboxd, and I go back to when it came out, and sure as shit, that month I had watched it.
Damn.
Yeah.
Cool. Well.
I was like, well, fuck. But what does that say? And it wasn't that long ago that I had already seen this movie and then forgot about it. Even read the book. Didn't remember the movie. And then go back and watch the movie and still didn't remember that I had seen it. Because it's not a bad film. It's perfectly...
I was about to ask. Is the film...
I gave it 3 stars.
Okay.
Although apparently the first time I watched it, I gave it 3.5.
Oh. So then here's the other question. Is the book better than the movie?
The book is better than the movie, yeah.
Usually.
Right.
Usually is.
Sure. They made some changes in the movie that streamlined things, but then they made other changes that just did not work. Like, okay, spoiler. Anyone who wants to watch the movie, stop here, skip ahead a couple of minutes. But so the girl's possessed by a demon, right? And at the end, the demon comes out, and it has like a physical form, which doesn't happen in the book.
Oh.
But they defeat it by fire. I would think a demon would be like, ooh, yay, fire. This, this feels good. This isn't going to hurt me. I'm a fucking demon.
Sure.
But, okay, whatever.
But you know, some say that burning that we associate with the fire in hell is actually supposed to be like the absence of God's light or whatever.
I guess so.
Did you ever think about that?
Not really.
Yeah, so that memory just popped into my mind. Someone explaining that to me.
Could be. I mean, a lot of what we believe about hell is even in the Bible. So yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like they need that to instill fear and have control.
Yeah, it's almost like that, isn't it? It's weird. So yeah, that is my. I don't usually forget about movies like that. So I don't know if that was a me problem or the movie problem.
Sounds like a movie problem.
But it was really frustrating. But it's not a bad movie, you know? I don't know. It's weird. It's very weird. Anyway, so that's one of the movies I've recently watched.
So there you go.
So what book are you reading right now?
Pick up My Best Friend's Exorcism or go stream the movie and forget about it and then still pick up the book later. Oh, so yeah, I read this in one sitting actually because it was so fucking good. I stumbled on this. So there's this person as a YouTube personality named Uketsu. I don't know. Maybe some of his videos are translated into English, but he's a Japanese YouTuber, and he does the like kind of like weird compilation of like creepy videos and stories and stuff. We have a lot of YouTube channels in America that do that kind of thing. I think of like Top 5 Scary, Chilling Scares,
Mr. Nightmare,
Slapped Ham. There's a whole bunch of those. They're all very fun.
Yeah.
And so this dude kind of did that, but he had this gimmick of he wears like a black bodysuit and this very creepy white, like almost like plaster or clay looking mask. And he kind of uses this high pitched voice to read everything in. And so he built a huge following, and then sometimes he would present these like kind of like scary mystery stories that you would have to like figure out what was really going on, and there would always be like a fun twist or a puzzle about it you had to solve. And he kept building up momentum and popularity, and he spun that into a writing career now, and he's publishing like mystery horror novels, kind of in that same vein where it has like almost like a creepypasta-ish vibe to them.
Nice.
And surprisingly, a translator by the name of Jim Ryan, and I bring him up because he was very instrumental into this coming out like into the West. He thought it was just such a cool idea and really pushed like different publishers to like, hey, look at this guy, we should maybe pick him up, you know, bring it to the rest of the world. Which is what happened. It got a release in the UK and just recently in America as well. His first novel, Strange Pictures. And so it's funny because like between the UK and the American release, totally different covers, totally different marketing. In the UK, they're hardcore focusing on the mystery aspect and like pushing it that way. And for America, they're pushing the horror aspect more.
Okay.
Now the downside is I don't think it's super horror. Like, if you're a diehard horror fan and you're really wanting, like, something super scary or gory, this isn't going to be it. But the premise of it is really cool. It's kind of like an anthology story, and it presents you 3 different tales. They're just kind of individual standalone stories. The first one is about this dude who's kind of, like, he's in college, and he's interested in, like, the paranormal. He's in the college's, like, supernatural club, and he likes internet mysteries. That's his favorite thing. And so one day his bud's like, hey man, I found this weird blog, you should read it. And so he starts reading it, and it seems super normal, super mundane. It's just a dude chronicling his life after he got married, and then he finds out his wife's pregnant, and he wants to like chronicle the lead up to it and the birth, and you know, it's like a dad blog kind of thing.
Right.
But then as it goes, there's like little weird things that happen in it and little hints. And his wife is actually, she used to be an illustrator and would work on like maybe even anime potentially, but she does like some drawings. It's supposed to be like her visions of the future of like what she wishes for the baby. And she makes like 4 or 5 of those, and they kind of just are, you know, there, and they don't really just, it's whatever. But then when you get to the end of the blog, it's like, oh, she died in childbirth. And then there's like a time skip, and then there's one more entry, and it's this very cryptic thing where it's like, I figured out what you did. I've solved the mystery of the pictures. I still love you, but I can never forgive you. So then it's like, oh fuck, what happened? Mm-hmm. So then it's like him and his buddy going back through the blog and like super scrutinizing every post and every picture that was included to try to like unravel what was really going on.
That is pretty creepypasta-ish.
And the big core of it is those pictures she drew, because there's a trick to them that if you can solve the trick, there's a hidden message among the pictures that fills in everything.
Okay.
So super clever, super fun. And then the other 2 stories kind of work in the same way. The second one's about a young kid that's going to like a preschool kind of daycare thing. and he draws a funny picture for Mother's Day during the Mother's Day activity, and it concerns his teacher, and then the teacher reaches out to his mom, and they start trying to like unravel why he drew the picture he drew, and she thinks there may be like someone stalking their family, and this might relate to it, and that spirals out. And then the final one's about a dude who graduates from high school, decides he wants to get into journalism, so he joins like the local newspaper in his town, and he gets stuck in like the administrative department because he's green. He's not fit to be a reporter.
Sure.
So they just have him pushing papers, which I know a lot about. And while he's doing that, he uncovers a case that was never solved, and it has to do with a dude who was like one of his former teachers in high school. He was his art teacher, and he really liked him. And he was, number one, stunned that he now finds out that he's passed away, but then that like it was this gruesome death thing that was never solved. They don't know who the killer is. And so he kind of teams up with a veteran at the newspaper to like re-look into everything and go back over it all, because the art teacher had drawn a final like little sketch the day he died, and they think that somehow is like a clue to what happened. And so in each one there's like the visual puzzle of like the picture, and then you get a fourth story that I'm not going to say anything about just to avoid spoilers, but it goes back through the other three stories and gives you more context on them, and reveals that actually all three of them are connected. Okay. In a startling and stunning way.
So are there like actual pictures?
There are actually pictures in the book.
The reader can look at and try to figure things out.
Yeah, and if you want, there's really spots where you could like stop and just like play with those pictures if you want to try to suss out what's going on.
That's fun.
And it's very good about like then if you don't know what's going on or you don't care to fool with them, you can read on, and you're going through the perspective of that character solving it as well.
Right.
So it does kind of pull you if you're like not the puzzle type,
right?
You don't care about that part, or but it's really cool. It's really awesome. It's not a lot of horror. It's much more mystery and like murder mystery.
I mean, that could be pretty horrific.
But what it does do is it does get that like really good like dread atmosphere of just you're like, what the fuck's going on? And then every new little piece, you're like, oh wait, what's happening now?
Well, a lot of times that's better than like splatter and gore. And
yeah, shit, very page turner. Now there is one scene, and I won't spoil it because it's contextual, but they do actually have a part where someone's being like attacked by an assailant, and it's super fucking brutal and like very gory, and even pulls some like J-horror techniques where they take like a sound and they do this like repetition of like a thunk 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 to make it extra creepy. That part was amazing. So he can definitely do the horror when it's time,
right?
But it's just a lot of these stories, it's more about the mystery.
Cool.
Super fucking awesome. If you love J-horror, if you love creepypasta stuff, if you like more of like the mystery solve a puzzle kind of thing in your horror, definitely give this a read. Definitely look for it. And I've seen they've already got his next novel lined up. I think it comes out like June or July, and it is called Strange Houses. And it kind of relies on the same concept, but it is about a writer who gets brought in by a friend, and the friend is thinking of buying a house, and he's like, hey, come look at this house with me, help me decide if I want it or not. And as they go and look at it, they're looking at like the floor plans as well, and they notice there's like a hidden room that's like blank space between two walls. And then when they find the room, it's weird and creepy, and then that spirals out into a mystery. Cool. But it's all predicated on like the blueprints and the designs and how they used like negative space to hide things.
That's fun. Neat.
So super awesome. Go look those up.
Yeah.
Show some love.
We hope you've enjoyed our little mini book podcast. Yes. Now we're doing apparently.
Now that being said, besides my best friend's Exorcism, what have you been watching?
Briefly, I will run down a few things. I did go. I finally watched Transformers 1.
Oh yeah,
we were talking about that before.
What'd you think?
It was fun. It was fine. It was.
It's not as bad as the trailers.
The trailer made it look, much worse than it actually is. And while it is, fairly juvenile and kiddie and stuff, I mean, okay, it's not. It was amusing. It was good. It was fun enough. The animation was pretty good. Character design was pretty good.
Really dug the guy that played Megatron. I thought he brought like the emotion and the defeat of like he idolized the one guy. And,
yeah. I think the villain. What was his name? I forget.
Sentinel Prime.
Yeah. He was pretty weak, I thought, for the most part. Yeah. I like the concept, how like this, grand hero is actually the bad guy, which seems to be done a lot these days, which is interesting. But anyway.
Wonder why.
Yeah. But no, it was pretty fun for the most part, you know.
Just needed more hair metal, right?
Needed some hair metal. Because at the end credits was pretty much a reference to the original animated movie.
Yeah.
With the backdrop and everything. And it just made me think of, the fucking heavy metal from the original. Just
Transformers!
I mean, I am not a rap fan. The rap doesn't do it for me. But it's also like, you got these big giant robots blasting each other. That just screams heavy metal to me, you know? Not rap, not any other genre. It's fucking heavy metal. And until the day I die, I think the best needle drop ever in any movie is during the shuttle attack in the Transformers animated film from '86.
With Dare?
No. Before that, when the Decepticons first attack it, when they play Instruments of Destruction.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And like that guitar riff and everything, it's fucking perfect. And Autobots are dying left and right. The 11-year-old me was super excited at that. All these kids who were traumatized by like the Transformers dying, that wasn't me. I was like, yeah, fucking kill them. This is awesome.
I mean, you know, it didn't really faze me either because, again, it was like, in my mind, I'm like, well, they're at war, of course, at some point.
Yeah.
People die in war.
It felt more mature.
Yeah.
It felt like, they up the ante because it's a movie and it needs to be. Oh, yeah. Okay, we're talking about Transformers the movie a lot right now. Maybe we should just watch that next time. What do you think?
Oh, man, don't tempt me. Cause God damn, I'll watch that anytime.
I legit love that movie. I'm sorry.
I legitimately think it's a good movie. Like, no joke.
Okay, what else did I watch? I watched Wicked. Oh. Which normally is not my sort of thing, but I watched it with my wife because she really likes it. And it was good. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I'm not, like, against musicals. I like a lot of musicals.
I like musicals. I don't particularly like the idea of Wicked just because the part I don't like about it is, I guess it's the part they didn't make into a movie yet, the second part where they have additional plot that happens alongside The Wizard of Oz. Oh, okay. That whole part is just like, fuck to me. Like, right. What are you doing?
I'm also not usually a big fan of this modern trend of, like, making the villains the actual good guys, or they're just misunderstood or something like that. I'm getting a little tired of that.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's okay to have actual evil characters, you know? Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, they can be nuanced or whatever, but it's also okay for them to just be evil, you know? Whatever.
I mean, Unicron's just evil.
Yeah, right. We don't need a backstory talking about how he was misunderstood as a little baby robot or something, you know? Back to Transformers.
He's the strongest, and you either bow down or get annihilated.
The one that amused me the most was trying to make Cruella de Vil like a heroine.
A cool action hero kind of thing.
Someone who kills puppies, you know? I mean, I haven't seen the movies. Maybe they explained that's not actually what she was doing, but I'm pretty sure, like, in the movies, that's what she was doing.
Yeah.
So.
She enjoyed furs, and she liked to have animals killed to have those furs.
Right.
And that's her whole character.
I'm sorry, but I still think killing puppies is wrong. Maybe not all Republicans agree with me, but, you know, whatever. But anyway, Wicked is...
Oh, Jason, I'm sorry. We here at Genre Exposure, we just rolled back our DEI initiatives. I don't know how to tell you this, but you were fired.
Oh, no. Well, that's the only way I could have gotten this job. The DEI.
Damn. Yeah, I'll tell you what is really sad, though, and this is totally not podcast related. Maybe I shouldn't say it, but I will.
It's fine. Fuck it.
I was attending a class to learn certain skills for my job, which I enjoy. And it involved, as part of the presentation, they were referencing like websites we could check on the CDC. And they had to keep reminding us every time, oh, now currently this page is down on the CDC's website, but we're going to keep the link in the note presentation and the notes we're giving you because hopefully it'll come back up at some point.
Hopefully. Yeah. You know, we'll just see. Yeah.
What else you watching?
I watched the Vourdalak.
Vourdalak
is the more horror-related one.
Yeah. Been hearing stuff about it.
Yeah, a French film came out. When did that come out? 23. It's good. It's amusing. It's who directed it? Adrian Bowe.
People are saying it's a nice chaser for Nosferatu.
It's completely different from Nosferatu.
That's why I said people are saying.
Yeah.
So I don't, but you know.
Yeah, it's fun. The lead character is like this. He's a marquis. He's emissary from the King of France, and he finds himself He got waylaid by bandits. His escort was killed. He finds himself staying with this strange family. He's trying to get a horse and everything and get back on his path. So he's this foppish, powdered courtesan. And there are these, salt of the earth, no nonsense people. But their father has become a Vourdalak, which is a type of vampire that preys on their loved ones. Ooh. Which, if you recall, if you're a big Mario Bava fan, was one of the stories from Black Sabbath.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up.
Yeah, great intro. Black Sabbath, period, is fucking amazing. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it.
We'll do that one next. I don't know.
And maybe Black Sabbath rules.
Well, the thing that drew me in though, because I wasn't super gung ho about this, is you said that there's a puppet.
The Vourdalak itself is a puppet.
Woo!
And it's interesting. It's weird. It's a choice. I'm not going to say it doesn't work, because a lot of times it does work, because it does give this weird ethereal disconnect. It's strange, but it's a good movie. I recommend it. It has a lot of humor in it. Also a lot of pathos, and it gets oddly touching. Surprisingly touching here and there. Interesting main characters, especially the courtesan, the Marquis. He's kind of nuanced, has layers.
Killer. Yeah, Shudder's on a roll right now. This is a Shudder exclusive, and then Grafted that I talked about last time.
Yeah, it's on my list. I need to watch that one. So anyway,
Killer.
Those are the big ones I've been watching. How about you?
I love it. I've got four to the floor here. 2 movies, 2 shows.
Okay.
So movies, I'll make those kind of quick. I happened to catch Tales from the Hood on a rerun on a TV channel.
The original?
The original.
Well, that's a great movie.
Love it. It's a stone cold classic. It's always one of the ones I reach for when people say, man, there's no good 90s horror films.
Yeah, that's one of the good ones.
There's at least some that you can undeniably say are pretty fucking solid.
Yeah.
And Tales from the Hood is one of those. And I think the crazy thing is, it came out in 95, and now here we are in 2025.
And it's still super fucking relevant.
And so many of the themes and ideals are just so relevant and so biting.
Yeah.
All this time later, it's just like, God damn, dude.
It's like, did we make any progress at
nothing.
all? Yeah.
And so this was showing on it was like a Stars channel or something. Mm-hmm. So after that was, for some reason, Tales from the Hood 3, which I had never seen before. I've also never seen the second one.
Well, I heard their shit.
I've heard their shit. I'm going to say Tales from the Hood 3, mostly not that good. There was one segment that really impressed me. That's about this dude who, he's like an asshole and a super jerk to everyone, and then he pisses someone off and they do a voodoo thing to him, and then he dies, but then he can't pass on, but he can see ghosts and stuff now. Mm-hmm. And it's this thing where he's trapped between life or death, and he can see angels coming to take people to heaven and demons coming to take people to hell, but he's in a limbo where he just keeps rotting and decaying but can't die. And then he has to try to track down the lady and make amends to undo it all so you can pass on. But it was really cool the way it depicted some of the scenes. The angels were they almost had a nature spirit kind of vibe to them. They had their wings looked like tree branches kind of coming out of their backs, and they had this very earthy, foresty motif to them. It was really interesting and a cool way to depict that. And then the frame story features Tony Todd.
Nice.
Which may have been
R.I.P.
one of his last roles. And that story was really good. And of course, it's Tony Todd, so he just doesn't matter what the material is. He sells it.
He is so good.
But it's about him escorting this little girl to meet his mother, and it kind of suggests that he may actually be a serial killer that abducts kids.
Uh-oh.
And then at the end, it's been a trap for him, and all of the children he's killed show up in these creepy masks.
Yeah.
And they're undead and coming to drag him to hell. That part's pretty fun, but not that great.
Yeah.
And then after that, Tales from the Hood 2 came on, and I don't know why they were showing them out of order. Yeah. I fell asleep, so jury's out on that one.
I guess it wasn't that good.
It looked like on Letterboxd there's a mixed thing of whether 2 or 3 is the superior one. Some people say 2 shit and then 3 shittier, and then some people kind of say, well, 3 sort of course corrected a little, but not enough. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's whatever.
It's not the original.
Yeah. So who cares? That being said, so now moved into TV shows because, again, I'm now in the world of Max and Disney Plus.
Uh-oh.
I have to talk about your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Okay.
Because, oh my god, this cartoon.
Yeah.
In a world of Disney and Marvel doing things that I don't like, and I'm like, why did you do this? Mm-hmm. Here comes a new Spider-Man animated show that it's like, ooh, just fucking right.
Okay.
So good. Even like, it was weird because it was originally pitched as, I think, Spider-Man freshman year. And it was meant to be like a prequel about the MCU Spider-Man before Tony Stark picked him up.
Okay.
So I can see wanting to do that to fill in that gap.
I'm not like a big comic book fan, as we all know. Mm-hmm. But I really, really prefer the non-Tony Stark Spider-Man type stuff.
Well, you're in luck, because between when they pitched it and to now, they were like, hey, we can't really do that anymore, and we're worried about doing things that like contradict stuff that the movies have done or will do. And so like we kind of want to do our own thing. Mm-hmm. So instead it became your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and the premise is it's the MCU universe, but a different universe. And they kind of just poke it and change a few things, and then it's like a branch that's going its own direction.
Okay.
And so that branch is basically, it comes down to like a what if question, which, you know, Marvel always had the what if comics, which is cool. And it was, what if instead of Tony Stark scouting and recruiting Peter, it was Norman Osborn, who, as we all know, as good comic fans, is, you know, his ultimate nemesis invariably the Green Goblin. And
Willem Dafoe, yeah.
Willem Dafoe. And dude, it's so good, it's so fresh, and it's like, it does a kind of weird CG art style I'm not super fond of, but they use it to do a lot of these like comic transitions and to get the very like Steve Ditko, like bright 3-color kind of vibe, like the early Spider-Man comics had. And so it looks cool the entire time. And they do a lot of these things like when there's a transition or like a really intricate moment, they'll put up like comic panels and kind of like chunk, 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 and like jump through the motions of it. So its comic roots are like really strong. But yeah, it's like he gets his powers. He starts doing the Spider-Man thing. Norman Osborn picks up who he is, kind of brings him into Oscorp as like an intern. And then he's like, hey, I know you're Spider-Man, but I want to help you. I want to empower you. You're clearly very smart. If you had all my resources, who knows what you could do. Let's work together and fix our city, which is like the A plot. And then, of course, the B plot, it's everything of like what you love about a good Spider-Man comic. He's trying to juggle high school, being an intern at Oscorp, being Spider-Man, having friends, having relationships. It's got a lot of cool characters from the comics they've kind of inserted into to be around. Like his best friend is Nico Minoru from the Runaways. They've set up like, early on they do a lot of like his kind of D-list villains, which is, I guess, is a good build-up. But then they get into people like the Scorpion, who's just like fucking brutal and crazy. It's just a really, really strong, really tight version of Spider-Man where they get everything that's right about Peter as far as like his personality, the fact that he's super smart and kind of nerdy, but does have that charming side to him.
Right.
Because I hate the Tom Holland Spider-Man. It's because he just doesn't feel like... He just feels like a Gen Z kid going whoa all the time. And all his smart shit came from Tony Stark.
Yeah, and all the movie references and stuff like that, See, the thing I think about the whole Tony Stark stuff, when he starts getting all this high-tech stuff, it makes it so easy.
Yeah.
And what I always liked about Peter Parker was that, you know, he's making this shit all by himself.
Yeah.
You know, he's using his own ingenuity, his own knowledge. He doesn't have anyone to rely on or fall back on.
Yeah.
That is so much more interesting than having all this cool tech.
And there's 10 episodes in the first season. It's already renewed, I think, for a second and a third. And we're already in the 8th episode. We're starting to see the cracks between Norman and Peter, and that like Norman's got all this shady shit he's not been letting him in on. And maybe a lot of the superheroics he's been having him do is more about covering up for his own dabblings. So I think eventually there is going to be that split of like they can't work together anymore, and
right.
He'll go on to be, you know, proper Green Goblin, and they'll be opposed, and then he'll be back kind of on the rocks again.
Right.
Just super good, super fun. And even the intro, they took like the old 60s Spider-Man theme song and remixed it into a rap song. And I know you're not big on rap, but it kind of has a good hip-hop, like super fresh take on it. And I really like.
It probably fits better with this than giant robots fighting each other.
It does, yeah.
So would you recommend this to someone like me who's not really into the whole comic thing?
Because it's completely standalone. You don't need any context. You don't need any references for anything. That. There's no other shows you should watch or check out or look into.
Right. I want to do fucking homework for a show.
Yeah. You know? And I'm kind of hoping that, I know we have Secret Wars down the pipeline. And if you're a comic fan, you know that ends with like the multiverse collapsing in on itself and them kind of rebooting everything, which I'm sure they're desperate to do in the films.
Well, I know they're desperate to do.
And so I really hope when they do that, this becomes like the baseline for their Spider-Man, more so than the Tom Holland one. So yeah, just geeky comic hour for me.
Okay.
The last thing I want to talk about in this very long intro we've had, over on HBO Max. It's not HBO Max. I always say that. It's Max.
It's just Max.
It's Max. It's cooler when it's HBO.
I don't understand any of this shit, so I don't know why they change names and stuff.
If you know me, I like all kinds of music, and when it comes to popular music, my favorite artist is The Weeknd, and he did a TV show with HBO Max called The Idol. That was kind of controversial, kind of reviewed very poorly, and got canned an episode early, and they had to rush and finish it really fast.
Oh yeah.
And did not get the season 2 they were hoping for. But I watched it because I love The Weeknd, and I was like, dude, it's only 5 episodes. What have I got to lose? I fucking loved this show. I thought it was amazing. Like, you can see the strain on it where it should have been like 6 or 7 episodes, and they had to do it in 5. But like, God, it's so good. So it's like Lily Rose Depp plays this character named Jocelyn. And I do have to retract any statements I ever made about her being a bad actress, because she is fucking amazing in this show.
Yeah.
And it really sells it.
She's good.
So that's always be a reminder that, depending on the director, the producer, everyone else in the mix, that can all change
I thought she was great in Nosferatu.
the perception of something. But she's this pop idol who's like super famous. She's kind of like Britney Spears-ish, I would guess, and that she was like super big, and then she kind of had this blow up and fell out of the limelight, and is in this kind of conservatorship now. Her mom passed away, so she has like random people like her producers kind of running her life, and they're all working to try to build her back up for a big like surprise return, new album, new tour. I'm back, I'm big. Forget the fact that I flipped the fuck out and maybe have mental issues.
Right.
And it's like not working. They've made her this very lame song that's got like cheesy lyrics that are kind of embarrassing. And so she's like seeking for some kind of new music to like push her, to help her like work through all the trauma she's had. And in comes the character that The Weeknd plays, this dude who's like a club owner named Ted Rose. And he's this very like super suave, super charming. Everyone seems to just get along with him super well. But he does kind of give that like bullshit meter thing to you.
Sure.
And so she goes out clubbing one night. She meets him. They kind of fall in with one another. And then it turns out that he is a very good musical producer as well, and he wants to like work with her on her music. And it begins this chain of like they start to entwine themselves with one another, and it gets into like very sort of toxic levels of things, of like BDSM-y kind of things, like him like choking her out and things like that, and like real heavy content in that department, which is intriguing.
Now I'm interested.
For some of us that like our racier content. And then that like kind of pushes her to like process her grief and actually make like cool music that's interesting, that's not just like lame prepackaged generic pop idol stuff. And everything starts to spiral out of control because her conservatorship wants her to do what they've planned, and then some of them start to have doubts because they're like, well, this new stuff is really good though. And so there's like tension and drama there. Ted Rose keeps like injecting himself into Jocelyn's life. He moves into her mansion. He has all these friends that kind of hang around him that he's casually picked up here or there, who are weirdly also all like super musically talented, and they kind of like form this like cult around him of like he just leads everything, and they just implicitly believe in him, and he kind of promises them that one day he'll make them big stars if they just stick with him. So it gets into like kind of that like personality cult, almost like a Charles Manson kind of vibe. And then it goes in a crazy direction of like, I won't spoil the ending, but you never really see what comes, because eventually the whole situation kind of flips and Jocelyn takes control. And it's in a very interesting and almost sinister way that you don't see coming.
Okay.
And he's talked a lot about it in interviews and stuff, that like a lot of the plot beats and ideas that went into this were like stories of things that he experienced, or that like other artists have talked to him about, of just like the sinister fucking shit that goes on in the music industry behind the scenes that no one ever really knows about. So it's a really cool, just like dark, erotic drama about the music industry and all the stuff wrapped up in that.
But it's canceled.
Okay. It does have an ending. You really feel the weight of like them having to end it early, because the final episode is like double length, and the first half is obviously like what that episode should be. And then the back half, there's a time skip. And after the time skip, it opens with like a 10-minute discussion between people that talk about what happened during the time skip.
Nice.
And you're
That's
like,
what you want.
And you're like, oh, that's the missing episode.
Yeah.
And that does, like, it weakens the ending because you don't get to see all that stuff.
Right.
And all the, like, a build-up and emotion in it.
Yeah.
But it just has this crazy, crazy, crazy twist ending that's, like, so clever and so sinister and so good that I can't help but love it.
Oh, well.
And then The Weeknd made a ton of music for the show. It's all fucking killer as well.
Cool.
So, yeah. If you dig The Weeknd or you dig cool, dark, sexy dramas.
You just want like a one and done season of a show?
Yeah,
maybe
just
check
watch
that
it,
out.
you're done, you get to the end, and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, like everyone's telling me, oh, you should watch Supernatural. You would like it. I'm like, I'm not watching
commit-
20 frickin' seasons of a show. I'm sorry, I can't
Commit
do
yourself
that.
for like 20 seasons of our episodes,
No.
and you have to watch it all, or it's not going to make sense. No, just watch these 5 episodes and be like,
Yeah. All right.
all right.
Excellent.
I think we've exhausted ourselves enough on those things. And
Yes.
We can get into Night Creatures.
Oh, yeah, that's why we're here.
All right, so Night Creatures, directed by Peter Graham Scott, also known as Captain Clegg. First thing I'll throw at you, Captain Clegg is the UK title. It was retitled Night Creatures for the US release.
Yes.
So we're going to keep calling it Night Creatures because we are Americans.
That's right. It's the Gulf of America, and it's night creatures, motherfuckers.
Oh, goddamn. What genre is this, Jason?
Dude, this is like a little bit of everything. Well, IMDb has it as... Hang on.
IMDb says adventure drama.
They say adventure drama.
Yeah.
Which, sure.
And Wiki says British adventure horror.
British adventure horror. Okay, yeah. I could see, mystery, thriller, a little bit of horror, adventure. It's got a little bit of everything.
My first question, is this a horror film?
No. This is not a horror
Absolutely not.
No, it is not. But that's okay.
Adventure works, mystery works, drama works.
Yep. It has horror trappings in a lot of ways because
Sure.
of the titular night creatures.
Yes.
Which,
The bog phantoms.
yes, the marsh phantoms, which we open the movie with.
We do. And they look amazing.
They look awesome. It's obviously people in costumes, and they're riding around on their horses, and they get like glow-in-the-dark paint on, which some pendant on IMDb said, you didn't have glow-in-the-dark paint yet. Oh,
Well,
God.
maybe Captain Clegg's just that fucking smart.
He's that fucking clever. He created his own glow-in-the-dark paint.
Or maybe this is an alternate timeline where glow-in-the-dark paint developed rapidly.
Yeah.
You don't know. I'm going to hit you with the synopsis.
Yeah.
A captain and his sailors investigate the rampaging marsh phantoms terrorizing a coastal town. But their search is hindered by a local reverend and his horrifying curse.
Yeah. That makes it sound like a horror film,
It does.
but it's just not.
Absolutely not.
And it's better going in knowing this isn't going to be a typical Hammer horror. So in that way, like Captain Clegg, I think is a weak title.
It is.
But it also doesn't mislead you to think it's going to be a horror film like Night Creatures does.
And I also think that when we talk about the film as being called Captain Clegg, it kind of spoils the movie itself.
Right.
Because it makes you latch onto the fact that,
This is about Captain Clegg.
and that's really important and we should focus on that.
Yeah.
And then that kind of tips you off to like a twist that comes later.
Right. Which, okay, maybe isn't that hard to see, but it is still a ton of fun.
But when it's Night Creatures, you're not focused on that.
Yeah, you're
And
thinking, where's the Night Creatures?
It comes a little more naturally at that point.
Yeah. But we start off with a man being marooned on a deserted island by Captain Clegg, who is off screen. It's like his first mate is giving this guy the sentence because he attacked Captain Clegg's pregnant wife.
Assaulted her.
Yes. So he must pay the price. They're going to maroon him on this island. They're going to cut out his tongue and cut his ears.
Yep.
Ow, I just hit my headphones.
That sounded painful.
Probably not as painful as it was for this fucker who got his ears sliced.
And his tongue cut out.
And we just have to say, I think every bit of of text I've looked at referring to this character always refers to him as the mulatto.
Yeah.
Which I am not comfortable with.
I'm not either, but that was a term that would have been used in that time.
Yeah.
So
I'm not going to use it, though. I'm just going to call him Baldy.
Baldy. Sure, or the renegade sailor, maybe. I don't know.
They're mute, because he is mute, because his tongue's cut out. He never says anything throughout the rest of the movie.
I mean, they could have just named him.
They could have just named him. They could have given him a name. So anyway, he's left there, and there's like a sign hanging above him, something about like, you know, this is what happens when you betray Captain Clegg.
Hell yeah. Don't fuck with him.
Mm-hmm. So then we get a hard cut to the grave of Captain Clegg outside a church, and it's now 1792. Mm-hmm. So it's been like, what, 16 years or some shit since the beginning?
Yeah, we're in the coastal village of Dimchurch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get like
on the Romney Marsh.
Yes, we get like a voiceover with a crawl and everything. It tells us about the marsh phantoms who haunt the moors outside of a village called Dimchurch, which is known for smuggling goods, particularly brandy, liquor, booze.
The good stuff.
Yep. And we see like this lone traveler going at night, and he's like sneaking around, and then he is beset upon by the aforementioned night creatures, the marsh phantoms we were talking about. Guy is dressed up as skeletons. Pretty much looks like if the Crimson Ghost was riding around on a skeleton.
It's a good comparison.
On a horse, yeah. He freaks out, yells, starts running around, and like falls into this pond, or in the marsh, and you expect him to be dead because we don't see him again.
Yep. It's fun. This is a fun intro.
It's a good intro.
Cool way to start.
It makes it look like it's more of the horror film that you think it's going to be from the title.
And that it was marketed as.
Mm-hmm.
Which we'll talk about that later.
Yes. So then we switch to the daytime, and we see a priest giving a service, and the priest is none other than Peter fucking Cushing.
Yeah. Dr. Was it Bliss?
Dr. Bliss. Yep. He is the parson here, the vicar. And he's telling his flock about how much thanks they should be giving for what they have, and insists that they sing louder.
I like that. He's like, let's go back 2 verses and start over.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can see in the crowd, everyone's kind of just like, oh. We meet some of the other characters here just in passing that kind of...
Sure.
Notably, it's Imogen, played by Yvonne Romaine.
Mm-hmm.
And is it then Harry?
Oliver Reed.
Oliver Reed.
He's the squire's son.
He's the squire's son. And they kind of have a little vibe between them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can tell there's something going on. Not the squire and his son.
No.
But the squire and Imogen, yes. The squire's son and Imogen.
Squire's son, yeah. Harry.
The squire himself seems kind of out of it. He's not really...
Played by Derek Francis, by the way, the squire.
Yes.
He is the leader of the town, as it were, to a degree.
and interestingly, the woman who plays Imogen and Oliver Reed were both in Curse of the Werewolf.
Oh.
I need to stop gesticulating because I keep hitting things.
I like that you talk with your hands.
I could not talk. If you tied my hands, I wouldn't be able to talk.
Do you want me to? I've been practicing. How tight do you want
I saw you had some red cord over there.
Pay no mind to the red cord that fell out of my audio equipment bag.
Intricate knots.
Just string this fucker up.
Have you seen Curse of the Werewolf?
No.
Okay. Maybe we should watch that sometime.
That's a cool film, I've heard. It's
not bad. It's weird because it was supposed to be about the Spanish Inquisition.
Oh.
And then the Catholic Church of England was like, no.
How dare you insult us, sir?
Yeah. Then they just made it into a werewolf movie set in Spain. Anyway.
Damn, we've already got all this Spanish set dressing.
We're going to do something with it. So, some soldiers arrive.
Yeah, led by Captain Collier.
Yes.
Played by Patrick Allen.
He's good. He's very British. Mm-hmm. Very stiff upper lip type, you know.
And they're coming because they've had an informant tell them of smuggling.
Yeah. Yeah. And we see a young boy sees them coming, and he runs off to inform someone who's watching from the church steeple.
Yeah, they have this whole little signal where he waves a flag and
and the guy has a spyglass and he sees it and he starts pulling on this rope that raises a silent alarm down in the church itself.
And you can see that some in the crowd know what's up because they excuse themselves and leave immediately.
Yep. Amongst those is Oliver Reed's character, right? Doesn't Squire's son leave at this point?
And then another important character, Rash, played by Martin Benson.
Yes.
He runs the tavern inn of the city.
And we find out that he is the ward of Imogene.
Yes.
So the soldiers, they split up. One group goes to the alehouse while the others go to the church.
Because they're wondering where the people are, and they're like, well, probably a lot of them are at church. And they're like, cool, go secure the church. The rest of you search the tavern.
And this is something we learn very quickly, and actually they allude to in the voiceover crawl at the beginning, that these are the king's men.
Yeah.
These are the men that are coming to get the tax revenue. And how we all know that taxes are evil.
Yeah.
I mean, you
should be imposing tariffs on other countries instead.
That's the way to do it. But I mean, being American, I guess we know about the whole. I mean, we fought a whole war over taxation, right? So.
Oh yeah. And then here we are getting taxed. So I don't know how that happened, but
I like it when Captain Collier comes into the church and he still has his hat on, and Peter Cushing's like, "Hey, please remove your hat, sir." And he says, "If I were here to, worship the Lord, I would be. I'm on King's business, so I got to keep it on." And there's a nice little exchange of respect kind of between these two characters, which I like.
And notably in their company, though, is old Baldy.
Yep.
He's with the soldiers.
Yep, they're back at the ale house, and he's basically, old Baldy is acting like a bloodhound.
Yeah.
And they call him a ferret at one point.
Yeah, they give him the scent of some alcohol, and he can go hunt for it.
Yep. And he starts sniffing around, and he finds this hidden trapdoor underneath the rug.
And it's funny because they make such a big deal about it. And they're like, "What is this?" And they're like, "Well, it's the cellar, obviously."
Yeah. What do you think it is?
And so there's this great scene where they go down there, and he kind of finds the one barrel that's like, "Oh, this is the stuff." And they're like, "What's in that barrel?" And he says, "What is it?" It's like
this is varnish.
Yeah, it's varnish.
This is where they keep all of their ship maintaining supplies and stuff like that. And then they break it open, and he takes a drink, and it is varnish. He's like, "What'd I tell you?"
Everything seems above board, so they kind of leave the cellar. And as they go back upstairs to continue questioning people, it's revealed that that's sort of like a false front. And behind that barrel is a secret tunnel.
Yeah.
That goes over to the what would you call
Coffin
it?
Maker.
Coffin Maker, yeah.
Played by the great Michael Ripper.
Yeah.
Who is a Hammer regular. He is in so many Hammer films, usually bit parts.
Yeah.
But this is one of his bigger parts. He plays Mr. Mipps.
Mr. Mipps.
And he's great.
Which definitely sounds like a pirate.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah. He's great in this.
But he's already on top of things.
Oh, we saw him briefly in The Creeping Flesh.
Yeah.
He was one of the men delivering the skeleton.
Never too far from our hearts.
Nope. But Collier, he wants to speak to a man named Ketch. And Rash goes through this hidden tunnel that we see. It's like hidden inside one of the big casks. Leads to the Coffin Maker shop, and this is like the base of their smuggling operation.
Yep. And they're panicked and trying to get rid of all the stuff as fast as they can.
Yeah.
But then
we find out that Ketch is the man from the beginning that we see.
Yeah.
And he's dead. He's in one of the coffins.
And Dr. Bliss is there for a second, and you realize that he's sort of the brains of the operation.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, don't throw that out.
Yeah, Rash is wanting to get rid of everything. And Bliss shows up and he's like barking orders. And he's like, nope, we're gonna just move it somewhere. We're gonna smuggle everything out tonight. And Collier also comes over at some point and sees that Ketch is dead.
Yeah, because he's like, I want to talk to him. And Mipps is like, sure, he's right over there.
Yeah. And he explains that he was found in one of the ponds by where the marsh phantoms are known to roam. Collier doesn't really believe the story. He's like, phantoms, whatever.
Yeah, he even debates it a bit with Bliss, and he's like, I mean, do you think there's phantoms? He's like, well, I don't know, but I know these are God-fearing people, and they believe it, and then I believe them, and...
And Collier shows up at the church again right before Bliss comes back through his secret tunnel. Because Collier's looking for a place to bed down his men, and they're trying to like put them off. It's like, oh nope, sorry. He goes through this list of places, but it's like, no, that won't do. No. I guess they'll just have to stay on the ship. And they're walking out into the churchyard, and they come across Clegg's grave. And I love this conversation they have about Captain Clegg, because we find out that Collier was the man chasing Clegg, never caught him. And Bliss is just grinning from ear to ear talking about this story. And Bliss says that he himself gave Clegg his last rites before he was buried, before he was killed, executed.
Yep.
And you can, I love this performance of Cushing. He's having so much fun in this role.
You can tell he's dancing circles around everyone, like literally and figuratively.
Yeah, he's pretending to be this nice, warm, parson, but he's really a smuggler, and he has more secrets, which maybe not too hard to see coming.
I mean, let's just go ahead and say he is Captain Clegg.
He is Captain Clegg, yes.
And I figured it out in that very first scene when they were like, he comes in and barks orders at everyone in the coffin maker's place. And I was like, oh, if the movie's called Captain Clegg, obviously he's Captain Clegg.
He's Captain Clegg, right.
And that's where the title pre-spoils the twist.
But when you know it's Captain Clegg and seeing his conversation with Collier, how much joy he's taken in the fact that Collier never caught Clegg, it's great.
You can enjoy it on two levels.
So they're having a dinner at the inn later when the squire, he has no idea about the smuggling conspiracy, he's not in on it, even though his son is. He's telling the captain that he can board his men in his barn. And this upsets Bliss. He makes a mess of himself so he can excuse himself to go call off the whole smuggling operation and shit.
And isn't it during that dinner at some point he finds the bald sailor, and when he notices Bliss, he attacks him.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Because, the men are being cruel to him.
They're making fun of him.
Making him dance and stuff like that. And Imogene is like, oh, leave him alone. And,
of course, everyone's trying to manhandle her as well.
Yeah.
She's very pretty.
And, Bliss comes out, and then the dude sees him and immediately attacks him, which should really clue you in onto who he actually is. Yeah. But Bliss just sort of brushes it off, blames it on the drinking, why he was attacked and stuff.
During this party, some other little stuff we get too is Harry and Imogen kind of have a moment together. They, profess their love for one another.
You get the whole lovey-dovey subplot.
It's like, oh, but your father, the squire, would never let you marry me, just an orphaned waif. And also then we learn that Rash kind of has a thing for her as well.
Yeah, a little bit of an unhealthy obsession.
Yeah. Which just put a pin in for later. So when night falls, they're going to do this whole plan to move the alcohol to a windmill and stash it there. It's out in the marsh.
Where it's going to get picked up by other people.
Yeah.
And Collier also explains that Ketch was an informant, which is why he came looking for him. And he came to them saying that Dimchurch was smuggling alcohol.
And Bliss kind of well, clearly we're not, but, you do you, I guess. And he's like, oh, I'm going to stick around a while, just make sure. Ease my suspicions.
Yeah, we didn't even get a scene that reinforces the fact that you should really be clued in that Bliss is Clegg, because there's a scene with that kid who actually is not obnoxious. He's actually kind of funny in this movie.
For a kid in a film, it's surprising.
Yeah.
He's quite enjoyable.
Because he's hanging out helping serve some of the sailors and stuff in the inn, and they're asking him if he wants to be a sailor, and he says, no, I want to be a hangman. And the bosun tells him that about the Baldy, that they found him when they were hot on Clegg's heels, when they found the mute sailor. And the bosun even says that he was left there for attacking Clegg's wife. So even a little bit more of an indication that, you should really know who this guy is.
Yeah. Which, by the way, and it's irrelevant to anything, but I do want to go back to talk about it. When the Collier and his men arrive at the very start of the film, and they're getting out of the boats and they're marching through the marsh, one of them has a peg leg. And he's credited in the credits just as peg leg. Mm-hmm. Man, it must suck to be that dude having to walk through the marsh. Like,
yeah.
Getting stuck in the mud.
That couldn't have been pleasant.
Damn.
Yeah. So one of the villagers comes running into the village and tells Bliss and Collier that he just saw the phantoms out on the marsh.
This is phantoms.
And Collier demands the man to show him where they are, and he runs off with him, and we see Bliss kind of just laugh to himself as he walks off screen. So while Collier and his men are off trying to chase these phantoms, that's when they start moving all the booze.
Yep.
But old Baldy was left behind in the barn with one of the sailors, and he hears the horses that are transporting the booze leaving the barn.
Yeah.
And he wakes up and let's see. Oh yeah, he raises the alarm, and the sailor who was watching him is stabbed by Rash. Mm-hmm. Rash acts very rashly.
It's almost like his name is intentional.
So the Baldy sees Rash dump the body in the barn, and he kind of runs after him. He gets the key to his manacles off of the sailor's body, so he gets free. Mm-hmm. So this villager, is not doing a very good job.
No.
Of the ruse here, because he's acting very relaxed and just sort of joking while they're out there on the marsh. He's trying to stall them. They're like asking him where this happened. He's like, well, I don't quite remember.
He's really playing up the dumb villager thing, like Max.
But Collier catches on pretty quick, and he threatens to cut the man's ears off if he doesn't take him to where the smugglers are. And it's at the meantime we see a man in a scarecrow, like he's inside the scarecrow itself, like dressed up, hanging on the cross.
And he's making hand signals.
Watching everything. Yeah, making hand signals.
And one of the soldiers keeps kind of glancing because they're like, is he moving?
Yeah, yeah.
But they don't know. They're not sure.
And we see a shot of his eyes. It reminds me a lot of Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, which of course came afterward. But I wonder if...
This scene was inspirational.
Yeah.
It's a cool look. Mm-hmm. I really liked that part.
But yeah, they're relaying hand signals. They get to the windmill, the soldiers do, after the smugglers have left it. But one of the guys notices the scarecrow moving. So Collier grabs his pistol and just shoots at it.
He tries to shoot it in the hand. He gets it in like the wrist area.
Yep. And then they run down there to get to it, but by the time they get to it, the man who was inside is gone. It's just the actual scarecrow costume hanging out there.
So Collier's pretty suspicious at this point.
Oh, yeah. And we get this fake out because we see someone like tending to a wound on their arm where the scarecrow was shot inside a house. Collier gets there and it's Bliss's house. And, Bliss invites him up and everything. And Collier is pretty sure that it's him.
Yeah. He immediately wants to see his wrist.
Mm-hmm. So he's like grabbing at his wrist and pulling up his sleeve. And Bliss is like, what are you doing? He's not injured. It's not him.
There's even when he first comes in, he sees there's muddy boots to the side. Mm-hmm. So he's like, smoking gun.
Right. These are your boots. Let me see your arm. But no, it was Harry, the squire's son. He was upstairs. He was the one in the scarecrow costume that got shot.
Yep. So Bliss kind of urges him to keep that hidden as best he can, and the plan is still on.
Yep. So later that night, we see Baldy out there digging up Clegg's grave.
Yeah.
Right? And Bliss is just chilling at home, and then he's attacked by Baldy.
Yep.
And they're fighting each other off, and this is another clue you should get, because Bliss is a pretty good fighter for an old person.
He's a good fight, and this scene is fucking crazy because they knock a lamp over and like it blows up into a fire.
Yeah.
And then
and it's obviously them there with this fire going on.
And then like Harry comes in to check on him, and then Cushing's just like, hey, take care of that fire, I gotta go. And he just dives off the window after him.
I love Action Cushing. We don't get enough of him.
And then Harry's like desperately trying to stamp out the fire, and It's a lot of action I didn't expect to get.
Yeah, it's great.
But Collier's getting suspicious now because twice the mute has attacked the priest, and that's a little weird.
But it was Rash who was putting out the fire.
He's Rash, okay.
Because when he's using like some papers that are nearby, and he finds that document from Captain Clegg saying that Imogen is his daughter. And
now that he knows this, he's like,
so he goes back.
He makes his villain turn.
He goes back to the inn, and he is forcing himself on Imogen because he knows her secret, and he's going to blackmail her if this ward that he had since she was a little kid doesn't succumb to his sexual urges.
He's always had feelings for her.
Yeah, this guy's a creep. Grade
A, max level creep.
Yeah.
But she gets away and runs off.
Yep. She runs off. She goes to Bliss, who had ran after Baldy, but
lost him.
Baldy got away. He runs into Collier while he's after Baldy. Just sort of, he mentions what happened, blah blah blah. This dude,
and that's when Collier's kind of like,
yeah. Why does he keep attacking you?
If only he could talk.
Yep. But yeah, Imogen goes back to Bliss. She's all upset because I'm Captain Clegg's daughter, and he's like, "Hey, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's cool. I know. I know about this."
Yeah, he told me before he died.
Yeah,
he told me to make sure that you're happy.
And she's worried because Harry's not going to love me. But Bliss summons Harry. Harry already knows. He's cool with it. He doesn't care that she's a pirate's daughter.
Don't matter.
Yeah.
I was getting Pirates of the Caribbean vibes.
Sure, all of that. I could see that.
The convoluted, like, I'm secretly a pirate captain's daughter.
Right. But Harry's pissed because he learns about Imogen tells him what Rash did, right?
And I fucking love this. He just comes in to the tavern, just like storms in.
Yep.
And is immediately like giving it to him and walks up and just slaps him with a glove.
So they start kind of fighting around, and Rash realizes that Harry's arm is hurt. Mm-hmm. So he knows that he was the Scarecrow. And then Collier and his men come in, and Rash turns Harry in because he's a bastard. He betrays the smugglers.
And they decide they're going to put Harry on the ship.
Yeah.
Use him as a hostage.
Yeah, but Harry grabs that document from Clegg and burns it real quick in the fire. So they don't know that Imogen is Clegg's daughter.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy just how fast he gets it and burns it too.
Yeah, it's great. So Rash goes over to Mips, and Mips runs to warn Bliss as Harry is being taken out to the soldier's ship. And on their way, the soldiers come across the Phantoms.
Yes, and in the chaos, Harry gets free. Mm-hmm. Is able to run off as they are waylaid by the Phantoms, which surprise are the villagers in costumes.
It's like a Scooby Doo episode.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's something I want to talk about. Actually.
Yeah, and Bliss comes back. He was one of the riders out there, and he looks cool because he's in the black outfit. He's got the skeletal gloves on and stuff.
So fucking awesome.
Yeah, and then he promptly marries Harry and Imogen.
Yeah, so they can run off and be together.
Yeah,
and move away from this life of chaos.
Yep. But by this time, Collier is cottoned on what's going on pretty much, and he and his men make his way back to the church.
Yep, and there's a big triumphant moment where Collier confronts him, and he's like, "I know that you're Captain Clegg."
Yeah, and he pulls away his collar, and we see this. He's got rope burns, and the townsfolk who didn't already know this.
Okay,
so
I forget the exact line he says, but it's pretty badass because he's like, "That collar can't hide the burn of the hangman's rope."
Yeah, something melodramatic like that. It's great.
So over the top.
So some people are like, "Oh my God, he's Captain Clegg," and Clegg is like, "Yeah, I am. What of it?"
And he's like, "I did everything I did to help this village."
Yeah. And he says that the man who was Captain Clegg is dead. They tried to hang me. I didn't die. The priest forgave me. Since then, I've tried to live
a better life. Vowed that I would use the rest of my life to try to help people.
And yeah, sure, he's smuggling, but I mean, he's also trying to help his town. And that's what he says. I've made things better for everyone here. These horrible, heavy, unfair taxes. We've gotten away without paying. People have been more prosperous.
The town's improved.
And everyone's kind of rallying behind him, and then a fight breaks out. And we get a little bit more action Cushing here.
Oh, hell yeah, I love this. This too was like, what is it? The third one where they marry Will and Elizabeth while they're fighting on the boat. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So he jumps from the pulpit onto the, I think they did. He jumps from the pulpit onto the chandelier and is like swinging over everybody.
Some like Errol Flynn shit.
Yeah, but the bosun fucking shoots him.
Unfortunately.
And he falls, but Mips picks him up and rushes him out of the church. And they get back to his coffin making shop, but Baldy is there, and he has killed Rash. And
okay, whatever.
Yeah, and he has a harpoon, and Mips is trying to get Clegg out of there. Says we have to leave, but Clegg sees Baldy with the harpoon, throws it toward them.
It was gonna get Mips.
It's gonna hit Mips, but Clegg, being the hero that he is, gets in the way and gets stabbed in the back by it. And then Mips shoots Baldy.
Yep, which ends that as well.
Yep. And unfortunately, Clegg's wound is mortal, and he dies.
Sad times. Mm-hmm. Then we get this like final scene where they're going to put him in the Captain Clegg grave.
Yeah.
And even Collier kind of takes off his hat and salutes.
All the sailors are like, touching their foreheads and stuff. and yeah. Even Collier like has to give his respect at the end to Captain Clegg. The end.
Sweet little ending. Yay.
Yep.
Now I want to ask you this. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, but they don't ever acknowledge it. Mips had to be one of his crew members, right?
Yeah, I would say so. He's probably his first mate, his bosun or something like that. That's what I thought. Yeah. That's the impression.
It seems like they're real, like lockstep in everything they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tight little movie.
It's only 82 minutes. It's
wham bam. Thank you, man.
It's not going to change your life, but it is just a fun, solid flick.
It is. I got a lot of notes.
Okay. Hit me with some of your notes.
Sure. So Hammer Films had put in a thing that they were going to take the novel I Am Legend, the famous novel by Richard Matheson, and they were going to turn it into a movie called Night Creatures. And they were doing like pre-production and rallying up for that, and then they had to abandon it because the BBFC informed Hammer that they wouldn't let the film pass if they made it.
Fuck the BBFC. Because, man, I would have loved to have seen a Hammer take on I Am Legend.
Oh, yeah. Just think of how cool like White Zombie is.
Yeah.
And
who was going to play? Who was going to play Neville? Was it going to be Cushing? Wow! I mean, how great would that have been?
Woo!
Now we got The Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price playing him.
Pretty close.
Which is not a bad movie.
I like that.
But man, a Hammer film that could have been. Damn.
Yeah, and so then they're kind of in this position where we've announced a movie called Night Creatures. We're committed to releasing a movie called Night Creatures, and they're like, huh. Well, we got this like pirate thing, and there's like phantoms in it. I guess we could call it Night Creatures for Universal, and that'll work.
They were like, let's just make this other book into a movie.
Yeah, Russell Thorndike's Dr. Sin, A Tale of the Romney Marsh.
Yep.
They changed Sin into Bliss
because Disney was also making one.
Yeah, it turned out Disney has like exclusive rights to all of Thorndike's stories,
but they only copyrighted the title and the character, Dr. Sin, but not the actual story itself. So they were able to use that novel. And there was actually already a version of it made in 1937, I think it was. And apparently they used some of the like dialogue from that movie, too.
So when I learned this little piece of information, I suddenly saw the film in a different way. Because doesn't it have almost like a Disney-like feel to it in some ways?
It kind of does.
Like that early live-action Disney.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before they had polished it into being like only kid stuff, where sometimes they would have like a little slightly more mature. A kid could watch this and still kind of get everything,
but the adults could watch it too without being bored out of their minds.
It super has that vibe, and I was like, oh, I can see it. I can see why Disney wanted to like lock down this kind of story. Pretty cool. They filmed it at Bray Studios in Berkshire. Let's see. When the sailors are marching out of the churchyard on the first raid, they go by a red brick house, and it's supposed to be the Parsons house, and that's actually Hill's house in Denham, once home to Alexander Korda and Merle Oberon, and then it was owned at one time by Sir John Mills, whose daughter Haley restored Cobstone Windmill, which is also in the film. That's the windmill that they go take all the alcohol to hide. So just some fun local to the region landmarks. You already got us on Curse of the Werewolf. The Oliver Reed and Yvonne Romaine were both in there. They also kind of had similar roles. I've not seen the film, but that was what everyone was saying. Kind of a desperate or ruined man being forced to dance for a drink, that kind of thing.
Yep.
This is a fun one. So in the very opening, when we get that first shot of the phantoms, right before they ride out and attack, I guess it's what, Ketch? Yeah. There's a coyote howl, and then it yips right after. So this is like the Wilhelm scream for coyotes.
Right.
That scream and yip has been used in like hundreds of films.
Yeah, it's one of those stock library sound effects.
So you've probably heard it many times in your life. In the UK, it came out as the B movie double feature with Phantom of the Opera from 1962.
You know, I still haven't watched Phantom of the Opera. I have it on that same Blu-ray set as
really?
Night Creatures, but
I
tried watching it when I was a kid, and I thought it was dull. And I hate his mask.
Phantom's like a weird one. Like, some versions I love so much, then others I just detest so bad.
Yeah.
And I don't know why there's such a range, but...
Right. What do you think about the musical? The actual Andrew Lloyd Webber musical?
It's all right.
I like it. I like the musical a lot. I think it's good. Although I did not like that live-action version of it with Gerard Butler or whatever it was.
Yeah, they went too much on the, like...
That was lame.
They took out the horror too much, I think.
Yeah, plus it was too much like a boring stage production.
Yeah.
And not an actual movie. Anyway.
But in the U.S., it was Night Creatures, and it was the main feature. And it was sometimes paired, and the movie it was always paired with was Hitchcock's The Birds.
That's odd.
It's because they were both distributed by Universal, and it was probably some kind of package deal. It didn't review well, and that was because people came in expecting a pair of monster movies, and instead they got bird attacks and then some pirate shenanigans. So,
I mean, they're both great movies.
They are both great. Yes. We talked about the glow-in-the-dark paint. That's a 20th century invention. There's no way it could exist in 1792, but I mean, whatever.
Hey, the Greeks had like napalm, so fuck you.
That's all the background stuff I have.
Cool. All right, yeah. I have this fun little anecdote from this book.
What is this book? Because people might want to look for this.
Hammer Films, an exhaustive filmography.
Ooh.
By Tom Johnson and Deborah Del Vecchio. It's by McFarland Press. Came out.
It looks more like a college textbook than a run-of-the-mill film book.
Yeah. It's a good book. It came out in '96, so it's a little bit older. It might be kind of hard to find these days. But it has every Hammer film in it.
That's awesome.
So I'm talking about Captain Clegg, aka Night Creatures. It talks about Lynn Harris, who had actually worked. He was an electrician and cameraman. He had actually worked on the old Dr. Sin movie from '37, and he was talking about George Arliss had played the Dr. Sin Captain Clegg character.
Yeah,
in that one. And he has a story about how the last scene they shot was the attack on Dr. Sin with the harpoon. And he said, in those days, a star like George Arliss could get away with murder. He simply refused to work after 4:30 and would simply say, "Thank you, gentlemen," and leave. He said that we were running late on this final shot, and he just got up, bid us good day, and left. And he said, strangely enough, on Captain Clegg, the only scene we had to be late on was, of course, the harpoon scene. But Peter Cushing, however, stayed until the shot was finished.
Eternally a pro.
Yep. Just another...
He will always get the job done.
Yep. Just another person saying how great he was and how professional and giving. And great guy.
Mm-hmm. So these aren't really like notes. These were things I came up with myself, kind of. Interesting connections I walked away from this film feeling. So the basic premise, let's pull back from like Captain Clegg's our hero and just look at like the overall story, right? Mm-hmm. You've got this kind of no-nonsense servant of the crown, and he's being sent out to this remote rural town because there's been some kind of crime that's happened, and he needs to investigate it and figure it out. And during his stay there, he's constantly stymied by the town that is in on what's going on.
Right.
as they try to fool him and take advantage of the situation.
Yes.
Does that remind you of any movies? I don't know, like maybe
another pirate movie?
Maybe another Hammer alum might be in the mix on it, and The Wicker Man. Yes, I speak of The Wicker Man.
Yes.
Isn't this really just that, but like from the perspective of the villagers in some way?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Sure.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like that. And then the other thing I really was...
It's a little less horrifying than The Wicker Man. But
yeah,
right.
Sure. Yeah. They actually kind of like learn a lesson at the end and are sad. Which some could say that a lesson was learned by the end as well, which is... What if they don't grow? They will grow. They will grow. But no, the other thing, and you mentioned it earlier, the plot of this whole film is just an episode of Scooby Doo. We just don't have the meddling kids in the mix.
Right.
Which I think is fucking hilarious.
Because that was like almost every Scooby Doo plot. They're like posing as monsters to scare people off, to make money on something. The criminal activities they're doing. And then this is just a super tangent, but I had to bring it up because I don't know when else I would ever talk about it. This movie reminded me of one of my all-time favorite Dungeons & Dragons adventure modules. Oh, yeah?
As you may know, I'm referring to U1, The Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh.
Yep.
Published in 1981, it is one of 3 Advanced Dungeons & Dragons adventures that was made in the UK by the TSR UK imprint that they had.
Right.
It was followed by U2, Danger at Dunwater, the next year in 82, and then it concluded in 83 with U3, The Final Enemy. I fucking love The Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh. It's one of my favorite like introductory D&D adventures, and it's basically the plot of this film because you're an adventuring party. You've just started out. You walk up on a city called Saltmarsh. It's a nice, peaceful coastal town. Everything's fine. Everything's nice, except they say, "Oh, don't go up on the hill there because up on the hill is a big mansion that used to exist.
It's haunted,
and it's haunted. It's haunted as fuck." Don't go in there. We're all afraid of it.
It's very scary.
Every now and again, the kids get brave and run up there, and they come screaming and telling stories. You better watch out. And invariably, being Dungeons & Dragons characters, you explore said manor, and it all turns out to be like tricks and illusions.
Yeah.
And there is no ghost. And the big twist is that it's all a front, because underneath the hill are these tunnels that connect out to the coast, and pirates are using it as part of a smuggling operation.
And I would not be shocked if the writer of that module had watched this movie.
Had to have. I just... There's even like costumes of like monsters at one point they like can put on and have as a thing.
Oh, and to those who aren't familiar with the old naming nomenclature system of the old modules, when Dustin said U2, it's the letter U and the number 2 because they were always...
Yeah, they had different series that meant things and...
not YOU, But yeah.
Anyway. And if you're a modern D&D fan and you don't play the old stuff, you actually can still experience this adventure.
Yeah.
Which is one of the few things I will give some praise for the current edition of D&D. In 2019, they put out an adventure anthology called Ghosts of Saltmarsh that took those 3 U-module adventures and a bunch of other nautical-themed adventures and remastered them in like a collection that you can play through.
Yep.
So yeah. If you love this film, if you check it out and you think it seems cool... You can basically play it in D&D.
Right. It's great. It's amazing.
What did you think of this?
This is one I had seen. When did I see this? I think they released that original DVD probably early 2000s.
Yeah, 2005, September 6th. It had a DVD release with several other Hammer films and a 4-disc set.
Yep, that's the one I had gotten, and I had the Blu-ray version of that. Yep. So I watched it then, and because this is the one that never got like airplay back on TBS or anything back in the day.
Which you can see why they would skip it.
Yeah, but I loved it. Yeah. I was like, is this a horror movie? This isn't really a horror movie. But I really got wrapped up into it. I loved Peter Cushing. He is having... He's so much fun in this.
In his prime here, just killing it.
He is having a great time. The whole cast is having a great time. Michael Ripper's his biggest role probably in all the Hammer films.
He's fun.
He's great. I love the captain. Like, he's the bad guy, but he's not really a bad guy.
Right.
And I always like it when there's a movie like that where the villain isn't really that villainous. He's doing his job. He's doing what he believes in. He's a servant of the crown.
I mean, it's how you feel about the cop in Wicker Man, right?
Right. But he's not like beating people. He's not like, he's not the real bad guy. It's just a fun movie. Yeah, it's just a little bit different. It's just kind of a fun little adventure film. I think it could have used a bit more action. That's my only big complaint. Like, I'm upset that at the end we didn't get a sword fight between Clegg and Collier.
Been amazing.
How great would that have been?
I would have been there for that. For sure.
Cushing and his priest get up with the saber, and he had done fencing before, so that wouldn't have been like a big deal. I wish we got a bit more of that. Oh, that would have been amazing. But yeah, it's just a fun, light flick. And this is the sort of thing I could also see being like a lot of Hammer films, like Captain Kronos. I could see a remake of this easily.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
Hell, this could be one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, It'd be better than the last couple, that's for damn sure. So yeah, I mean, I give it... What I give it? I'd probably give it 4. Because...
Interesting.
It's not quite perfect. It's not the best thing you're ever going to see. But
sure.
It's a good time. It's different. And just for Peter Cushing's performance alone, I mean, that's worth like 3 stars. Then you got Michael Ripper. Then you got Oliver Reed. It's good stuff. What do you think, man? This is your first time seeing it, right?
So I didn't know what I was in for. I was waiting for those night creatures. Never got them. But in the hierarchy of things that I love, pirates are pretty up there. So I was like, no, I'm into this too, though. Just super fun. The whole cast is fucking amazing and just on point the entire time. Overacting when they need to overact.
Yeah.
Perfectly subdued when they need to be subdued.
Right.
The effects are cheesy with the night creatures, the marsh phantoms, but they just look so fucking cool.
Yeah.
You forget about the fact that it is just dudes in sheets with glow-in-the-dark paint.
Yeah.
Like, it just washes over that. And clearly it left an impression because, of course, you mentioned it last time when we were leading up to this. Rob Zombie, of course, has an affection for this film as well.
Of course, yep. And also, I just kind of thought of it, but like kind of the ethereal-like shots of the night creatures or the marsh phantoms, I wonder if Armando Diasario had seen that before doing Tombs of the Blind Dead. Oh, because when you see the Templars riding out on their horses and stuff, it has that kind of...
Yeah, they have like the shrouds.
Yeah, that kind of slow-motion ethereal thing going on.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Ooh. That derailed my thought because it was so cool.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's super engaging. I actually gave this 4 stars too because I just thought it was a solid knockout of the park.
Sweet.
If you're coming to be scared, you are going to be disappointed on that front.
Yeah. It's
just a cool Scooby Doo-ish plot without the Scooby Doo kids in the mix.
Yeah.
That plays out pretty much the same way. I mean, I guess probably no one would have died, but...
Right.
Whatever. Dude, it's just fun. And it's one of those, like, I don't think there's any other film in their catalog that's like this one.
Right.
It's very unique as far as like a Hammer film.
And it's also a good reminder that Hammer did more than just horror.
Yeah.
They had like some great science fiction films, mysteries, thrillers like this, tons of shit.
And I think often we kind of just think about, they did, the big guys, Dracula, Frankenstein, Werewolf, Mummy. But no, there is all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. You got your Gorgon in there too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or your Captain Clegg.
Or your Captain Cleggs.
Yeah. So yeah, I just really loved it.
Awesome.
Start to finish.
Yay.
I don't think I have anything I needed to add. I think I've already said along the way.
Yeah, same here.
I was very happy with this
one. I enjoyed our little impromptu Peter Cushing-a-thon.
A good way to start the year.
Indeed.
But now we must move on to other things.
Yes.
And by move on, I think, I've thought about it this whole time we've been talking, I think we need to go modern.
Oh.
Because you and me have been watching some new films that have been super good.
Yeah.
And there's one that just came out that I'm kind of curious about. And even though I know I'm going to watch it anyways on my own, I wondered if it would be cool to subject us to it.
Okay.
On the show. So we are going to check out, streaming on Shudder, just dropped The Dead Thing.
Okay. All right.
Hit you with the synopsis. A young woman lost in a series of meaningless connections falls in love with a charismatic and sensitive man who hides a dark secret that turns her affair into a dangerous obsession. Now, this is notable because it's directed by Ulrich Kane. If you recognize that name, he's a podcaster. He's now, I guess, a filmmaker.
Hey, we're podcasters. Are we going to make a movie?
He's done a lot of reviews and essays and stuff on film.
Oh, he's a good podcaster. Okay.
Lives in Hollywood, which helps.
Oh.
But if you are like a big horror fan like me and you do mix your horror enjoyment with podcasting, He was one of the hosts on Shockwaves. That was the official Blumhouse horror podcast they had for a good while with that awesome, like, was it 3 or 4 of them?
Lineup,
Ryan Turek, Elric Kane, Rebecca McKendry. Forget the other guy. I think he got canceled for something. Being shitty. And they had a show before that too. Some of them did. Was it Killer POV? I want to say. And now Rebecca McKendry and Elric are doing Colors of the Dark.
Yeah.
Which
and
is
making movies.
Just for Fango, I think. It's one of their podcasts.
I think so. Yes.
Kind of just doing the same thing they did on Shockwaves, talking about movies, highlighting cool stuff. And he's often on. I love Elric Kane as like a person that talks about film. He also does the Pure Cinema podcast, which is kind of just a broader all film sort of thing he does with another guy.
Nice.
But like when I listened to Shockwaves, and I was very like diehard fan of Shockwaves, like
there it is. There's the cough.
I almost made it. No,
I was waiting for it.
God damn it. There were no edits, and now there's an edit. I'm gonna kill myself. I'm gonna hang myself with this mic cord.
Don't do it. Stop. No.
I listened to Shockwaves like start to finish, and of the 4 hosts, he was like my guy. Like, if he mentioned a movie and I hadn't heard of it, I would always write it down.
Yeah.
I would always look it up.
It's nice to find someone you can actually like trust and jive with.
Because it was like I was just like, he's my guy. He finds like that stuff. I'm like, oh my fucking god.
Yeah.
Like he was the first person that turned me on to Zulawski's Possession.
Oh, okay.
I guess around the time the Blu-ray came out, he like heavily pushed it on their show.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, like really check this out if you've never seen it before.
Yeah, it's a fucking classic.
Which in a lot of ways, watching that movie then birthed our podcast because that was we were doing the movie club and talking about films, and that was our first and very like monumental one that we watched.
Yeah.
So I always wondered
that one.
like if he did get to make a film, what would it be like?
Yeah.
Because he pulls on a lot of these influences that I really love.
Sure.
And so now here is this movie, The Dead Thing.
All right.
It came out last year. Shudder picked it up, and now it's out streaming for everyone. I'm just cool to see what it is and where it goes. I've heard it kind of leans into some like erotic-y stuff, some creepy stuff, some weird stuff.
All right, we'll bring that red cord back with you next time.
You can bet on it.
All right, man. Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh my god.
Dustin's getting all excited about that red cord now.
Oh my god.
Oh, he's tying it around his own neck. Oh my god. What an elaborate knot.
So thanks for spending time with us. Thanks for tuning in. Jason's laughing because you're not going to know it, but I've been choking off air. Like,
no, I'm keeping it in.
Oh, God.
They're going to know.
Oh, God. Reach out to us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Let us know what you've been watching. Still send us movie recs or films you think we should look into. We will still do listener recommendations. We're just on a break until we get some more in the old basket there.
Yeah.
So send those in. Email us at genreexposure@gmail.com. And even if you don't have a movie to recommend, just tell us what you've been watching, what you're loving, what you're enjoying.
Yeah.
We always love to hear it, and we always love to hear your thoughts as well. So if you've seen Captain Clegg or Night Creatures, as it may be, let us know what you think. But otherwise, you have been listening to Genre Exposure.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.